WCLN 1170 Radio and Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by J.W. Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know's on air. I want to thank you for being with us. Remind you each and every Tuesday at 2:30. Also, 7 p.m. Tuesday, Thursday is a replay of this show. The name of the show is We Should Know. My name is J.W. Simmons. Pretty soon we'll be going into our 10th year. And thanks to your support and your comments, kind of keeping us on track and making sure we're delivering to you the information that you want to know more about. We've been doing that, and we appreciate all your comments. It's been sent to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. Also, Post Office Box 1482, Clinton, North Carolina. Today we have a guest that a lot of folks want to know more about, have a deeper understanding about, and that's our economic developer. And Stephen Barrington, we're originally from Wake Forest, and you've been associated with Wake County Capital Area Work Development there. You've been with the Economic Development Project Manager in Wake County. A lot of stuff you have done throughout North Carolina, and some of the probably fastest growing metropolitan areas, not only in North Carolina, but some folks would say in the southeastern region. I want to thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. I look forward to this.
As we were off air talking, one of the things that struck me, I'd planned to have you on a couple of months back. Then, of course, COVID came into the picture and literally changed everybody's lives. In my introduction, I've been trying to squeeze it in to see how I wanted to introduce you in the COVID era versus the non-COVID era. So I think what I'll do is just kind of open the door and let you explain to us where we are in the vision you have, maybe what you did have and what you might have now, as it relates to potential of growth for Sampson and surrounding county in the area of economic development. So many times, I guess other people start thinking of bringing big industry in, or a BMW plan, or something of that nature. But it's so much more particulate than that, is it not?
Actually, that's a great question, and thank you for that. I think the focus has not changed considerably. However, I think there will be a little bit more focus in target. But to your point, economic development, if you start looking at it, is extremely broad, or it can be very broad, and so as though it lacks. Though they're as broad as it is, there are elements that we're going to focus on just based on our own bandwidth, and the bandwidth being our human and financial resources. Several of those areas that it is very interesting. You led off with the COVID-19 and what's taken place with that at this point. No doubt about it, that was the last straw for the Brooks brothers. And thus we saw a pending closure of that building, and many folks and many individuals and families are going to be devastated and hurt very, very significantly by that. That's in our backyard. Also, what's in our backyard are a lot of other smaller businesses who are trying to decide whether they're going to reopen or how they're going to reopen in the future, and this relates to their talent as well, and to their employees as well, and whether it's layoff or whether it's a furlough, or what their plan of action is going to be. So there's a lot that's going to show itself over the next months here in this area. But our focus has been and will continue to be really focused heavily on a manufacturing, but also an agribusiness standpoint, and that's the strength of Sampson County. If we look at the data, by far those two industries are strong points, and we'll continue to build up those strong points, knowing that there are elements of small business and entrepreneurship and different things that we want to spend some focus and some time on as well.
I think you hit a good point, and we've had a number of folks that we've talked to over the past a few weeks that are representative of the ag industry. How do you pivot and move toward a new and emerging possibilities when we have such huge interruptions that are occurring in our supply chains, particularly in the ag business? The food chain has been obviously interrupted. We've had stores and so forth not getting product. That has created a large stir in the community. Where are we going to get meat? Where are we going? But it has nothing to do with the supply part, of which a large portion of that comes from Sampson and surrounding counties, to include pork, to include beef, to include poultry. And yet the critical juncture there, the supply chain is broken down in multiple areas. When you look at that, is there opportunity as well as some sense of disaster occurring there?
Yeah, no doubt. There's some sense of there's some challenges that are identified, and really early within the COVID, very early in that process. We speaking to a farmer in the area. It's a relatively large farmer who does a lot of exporting. And one of the things that he had said at that point in time, and this was on the very front end of COVID, and I'm not even certain that social distancing, in fact, I don't believe social distancing was required at that point. So it's really on the front hills. And no doubt it's continued up to this point. He was very concerned from export because they had containers in China that was sitting in the container, had been sitting in the container. They did not know when, even from a talent standpoint in China, when they were going to allow folks to unload that sort of product. Mm-hmm. So even from that perspective, the farmers and the folks who are exporting product is hurt. I mean, is going to feel that. Is going to feel that pain of product that's sitting without movement.
And the reason I mentioned is there possibilities for opportunities even on the small scale? I had a conversation recently, and it was related to ag, and someone mentioned, well, the supply chain, yes, has broken down, and what their observation was, and we're a very innovative society. We have, especially, I don't know anybody any more innovative and intuitive thinking than ag people, but this person said, well, I'm thinking maybe I need to open up a small meat store like used to be. And I said, what do you mean used to be? He said, I mean where you had salted hams and you had fresh meat, and he said, and just make it accessible. And the vision that came through was, I chuckled a little bit, but his vision was, well, you got all these, quote, Dollar General stores everywhere. He said, but I'm talking just a food, meat distribution chain that would work that. But then again, you still have to look back at, that might work for a small community, but it still is dependent on an industrial size event to move product, and that's just not there.
Yeah, so I really don't have a, besides what you said, I don't have an answer to that, to be honest with you.
I don't know there is.
Yeah, and that's going to be, and I think you kind of nailed it, and when you kind of highlighted that, that's where the entrepreneurship of the minds of the farmers are going to have to show up, so to speak, so that they can look at how can they redifferentiate themselves or do something a little bit differently to support their livelihoods and not taking away from the farms itself, but also what else can they do is really what I'm referring to. And that was a perfect example. I'll tell you another one that even amongst this time frame, B&B pecans. Right now, they're Elizabeth Pecans. They're opening up a new retail shop, and they're expanding currently. And I tell you, things as such is very exciting. And just even from a retail standpoint, just the fact that they're doing it during this period of time says a lot.
It does. It does. But those are the kinds of stories I think that that folks really need. Those diamonds are there. That innovative experience is there. Those possibilities is there. And what I'm trying, I guess, as much as I can, is to root out those and say, this is one of those points of light that you can look at as being positive. Because if you continue to look at the other things that's going on, it gets so dismal. You have to be very bold and aggressive to make something happen. So my other observation I wanted to see if I could kind of get some comment on is this idea of looking at where we were to try to recreate where we were, or looking at that innovative side to try to create something new. Is there two dynamics at play, and can they work simultaneously together?
Well, I think it's going to need to work simultaneously together, and because you do have the traditional. Now, I will go ahead and take a step back for a quick second, and even upon my entertaining Sampson County economic development, whether to come or not, I do a lot of look at data, and the data was kind of highlighting a couple of I'm going to say challenges in one sense, but they're systemic challenges that may determine the future and what takes place as it relates to this sort of conversation. And one of that was poverty. The amount of poverty that's in Sampson County, and specifically the number of children under 18 who live in poverty, which today is just under 36%. So just shy of 1 in 3 are living in poverty. And then we look at the educational attainment and how many folks within the area have dropped out of high school, have left, but also how many of those have a 4-year degree. And there is correlation between the poverty and that as well, and there's no doubt about it. And so as it relates to looking at what type of industries, business and industries that we want to attract that's right for our community and our labor force and that of the labor force around the area, it's going to be very important that we look regionally, but we look at doing things perhaps a little bit differently. And I'll speak to that in a minute.
Sure, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in a moment, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking with Stephen Barrington, the economic developer for Sampson and surrounding counties. Stay tuned, call a friend.
Experiencing slow internet? If you have a fast internet package, the problem is most likely your wireless router. With more devices using Wi-Fi, your wireless router may not be able to deliver the speed and coverage you need. We now have the leading solution to enhance your internet experience. Using small devices in a mesh network, these Wi-Fi appliances cover just about any size home so that all your devices can operate to their fullest potential. Whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Get the most out of your internet connection.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We should know it's on there. We're coming to you from Star Communications, cable TV, channel 16. WCLN Radio, also a summation of the Sampson Weekly newspaper. Each and every week, this show comes on the air for you with information and programs that you've asked about, subjects that you wish to know more about, and importantly, people that you want to hear more about and more from that person. Nothing's more volatile or, I guess, pivotal now than economic development, and the guy in charge of that here for this area, Sampson County, is Stephen Barrington. Wake Forest, Raleigh, Wake County, master's degree in public administration, bachelor's in political science from Western Carolina University, bachelor's degree in foreign language from Mars Hill College. The more I read about you, and I'm sure folks have done that numerous times because a lot of this has been in the paper, the background, the expertise you've got, we're very fortunate, and we want to say thank you for choosing Sampson County to come to with you and your family. What was the triggering point? You touched on that in the first segment a little bit. What was the thing that triggered you to say, well, I want to come to this rural area? And granted, there's some debate as to whether Sampson's the largest county or not. We've probably got as many trees as most, but it's kind of a paradigm shift, if you will, walking out of the environment in Wake County that is huge and bustling, or even Wake Forest, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a rural area. Now, granted, we're closer to the beach. That might have been it. I don't know, but kind of give us a little feel for the kinds of things that we're saying to you. You know, I kind of like this. I kind of like because I know you went through a huge interview process, one of those scientific things I think that the county put together. But kind of give us a feel for that.
Yeah, so for many years, actually, I have been interested in working with rural economic development, albeit working directly in Wake County, to your point, in Wake Forest,
Yeah.
and spending a little time in Johnston County on behalf of Capital Area Workforce Development Board as well, working with the business community. But there's also always been an appeal for me in terms of supporting and helping to grow rural North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And Sampson County, when the position came up, to be honest with you, I had to learn a lot about Sampson County, and so I dug right into data. Data was very important for me in terms of the population that's here, the type of culture that's here, the opportunities, the size, what has taken place in the past, what are the opportunities going forward. And I tell you, after doing just a basic analysis of my own in terms of, the opportunities versus challenges and lack of opportunities, et cetera, I just found Sampson County to be a community that is a community mm-hmm. made up of multiple municipalities, but is a community that really is, there's so much going for it. And the proximity of Sampson County to so many different assets across the state and across the region is significant. And I just felt like this is an area where I can make a difference and as part of a larger team mm-hmm. that we have that's exist here, but it's also part of the state, regional, and local business resource infrastructure. And so that really frankly just got me very excited. So I started pursuing the opportunity, and was just very fortunate that I was provided this opportunity.
One of the things I've said on this show a number of times is I know of nowhere I would like to live or continue to live than in this area, than in Sampson County. And I recently, and one of our guests, we were talking about this subject, and it struck me, especially during the COVID situation, yeah. where better to live in the heart of the food source of the country. And that, I guess, kind of makes you think about Maslow's hierarchy of need. If you're close to the food, it adds to that survival level very, very much. But I noticed one of the things also that you bring to the table is you were a town commissioner in Wake Forest as well, which tells me that you very much understand the way communities work.
Yeah, it was. There was a 4-year period. It was 2003 to 2007. These were very high growth years in Wake Forest, and was very fortunate to serve on that town board at that point. But you're exactly right. It's provided me insight into the other side, into what our elected officials oftentimes look at, and I was a pro-growth. Pro-business board of commissioners, or a town board member, but I also saw the role, and the role was one where I kind of learned a lot more about the greater responsibilities of that role than trying to bulldog something forward, mm-hmm. et cetera. That it really does take a team, and it takes a team of your fellow commissioners and the town staff and the community at large, or whatever. So it was an area that, and a role that was very helpful to me to gain greater insight into how to work with them at this point, even more so.
I'm going to try to start digging a little bit deep now. So
Perfect.
just kind of hold on and work with me here. But tell me what you see in Sampson County. When you look at it with the number of small towns we've got, Clinton being this county seat, and you look at this area, what is the key points that you think are critical that you can use to sell to me or anybody else out there that maybe is listening to this show or watching this show? Hopefully there's a lot of people who wants to invest in Sampson County. It says I've got a multi-million-dollar company that I'm looking at, I don't know, distribution or shipping products or whatever. What is there things that you look at here? Is it location? Is it workforce? Is it the willingness of the people to work? What is it that you use to sell somebody to say this is where you need to be?
That is a great question. I'm really glad that you asked it, and you kind of highlighted on talent. And I'll go ahead and speak to talent. Talent is no doubt is a top variable for why companies will come here. Now, here's the process. The process is we will oftentimes receive a notice that a company is considering the Southeast North Carolina, or they're considering part of North Carolina, they may be considering another state, 3, et cetera, or a region of the U.S., et cetera. And they're just going to put out a feeler in terms of what is their product? Does a community, what communities has the type of infrastructure, the buildings and or sites that we need to support our company? That's typically the very first part of that process. Then it goes right to, we'll submit if we have anything to submit. And that's been a challenge for Sampson County and for our efforts. However, so that's the first step. The second step is, after that company receives that, they're going to narrow down what areas or what localities they would like to based on the information they initially received, where they would like to investigate further. And that may mean come for a visit. That may mean let's send them an RFI to complete, a request for information to complete, to get a better understanding of their infrastructure, their product, but also their community and their talent. Talent becomes, at this point, it becomes a top driver in the decision. Do they have the talent to be able to meet our needs? Do they have the infrastructure to grow the talent or the feeder systems in which the talent will come from? Talent is huge. It never have seen anything like it. When I first started economic development back in '99, workforce development and talent was something someone else did and concerned themselves with, but it's very much part of any win that we have for the community. Talent is a major piece of that, as well as the organizations that develop from the K-12 to the community college to all these other feeder systems that support that. Once we receive that, then if they have not already visited, if they like the area, they'll come to visit, et cetera. But there's a process involved. Talent is a major part of that process, to your point. I think one of the things that Sampson County has, and I already talked about a little bit about the poverty of children under 18, or the poverty of the county itself, but also the educational attainment. The educational attainment, in one sense, does not worry me at all, because we're going to go for companies that fit. What are the right fits for our community and the regional talent? We also understand the migration patterns of folks working and coming into from other areas into Sampson County, and the folks in Sampson County sometimes going out of the county to work as well, or going to other locations within the county to work. So we also understand that's a major variable that supports the talent. Our talent efforts. Right now in the county, there's approximately 30,000, give or take a little bit, in terms of the labor force itself. However, if you're looking at one county removed around Sampson County, you're looking at over 440,000, and that's significant. And we absolutely use that. Now, there's some businesses and some industries that will draw further away, and some that will be a little bit closer. But I tell you, the infrastructure that we have in terms of the organizations that support business as a team, the small business, the large business, collectively from the state level, the EDPNC, North Carolina Commerce, to the North Carolina State's Industry Expansion Solutions, SBDDC, SBAs, all the way local to the community college, the Main Street programs, et cetera. It is very important that we collaborate and we regularly and routinely work together to support these businesses, and that's a major asset.
We'll come back. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about proximity and some of those things that you look at value added. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. We look forward to seeing you again right after the break. We're talking with Stephen Barrington about economic.
You come out to replace a bad sensor, and that adds a 5-year commitment to my contract, and you don't tell me? Here's your sign.
Switch to the sign that's keeping homes secure and customers happy all over the area. Security from Star Communications. We pride ourselves on fair pricing and quick, friendly service every time.
Somebody trying to break into this place?
Security from Star Communications.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on air. Again, I want to thank you for being with us today. My name is J.W. Simmons, and I'm talking with a gentleman that many of you, if you have not met yet, you need to. If you don't know, you need to know. And his name is Stephen Barrington. He's an economic developer here. In this role, Stephen, as we've talked about in the first 2 segments here, you've got a background that I think a lot of what you said makes you a perfect fit for this area. It makes you somebody that understands and has the word objectivity, again, comes to mind as I think about what you're looking at. You understand the ag piece, you understand each incremental part, but I want to talk a bit about 2 things. One, proximity, i.e. geographically where we're located, and the other piece, some of the kind of diverse industry that we all have here. And of course, ag, as you mentioned, is the leading part of that. But I kind of want to open that door with the Brooks Brothers piece. You mentioned that, and for Garland, North Carolina, as it relates to a manufacturing operation, this has been, for folks that maybe not have read this, a huge loss for Garland is that manufacturing plant is closing, and my understanding it's in July. The question I have is, talk to us a bit about that, and it seemed that one article I read that maybe the leadership in Garland, the town leadership, was looking at making a last-ditch effort to keep something happening there. But does that also mean the distribution center in Clinton is closing as well? I'll start with that and let you speak to some of these issues.
I'm going to jump all over the place with that
question. Please, go right ahead.
Over that. Yeah. First and foremost, we have been told very clearly that the distribution center in Clinton is going nowhere. That it's going to stay just as it is, and so that's good news. That's great news. Yeah. It certainly is. It's very interesting when you talked about diverse industry, because I want to brag on the Economic Development Advisory Board for a quick second, and these are board members who make up business, government, and education, and really that's the triple helix where you need, it's like a 3-legged stool. If you do not have one of those working in tangent with the others, the chair's not going to sit up as well. So they work very well together. But they created a vision for our economic development efforts, and I'll read that just for a quick second. That Sampson County will be a leader in growth and diversification in business and industry. And that diversification is actually very important for the reasons that we've spoken here. Not just the large boxes, but the smaller ones as well. I will now touch on, just for a quick minute, Brooks Brothers. But I'll also touch base, or let me first talk about our philosophy. Our economic development efforts, we are not proactively seeking a whale. We are not seeking the largest companies out there. We're not. However, that's not our proactive efforts. As opportunities come that in which a whale comes or a giant company comes to our area, we are going to work to win those and compete for those projects. What we're really looking to do here, and Brooks Brothers that size would fall within what we're looking to do. Of 150 employees, 200, 300, et cetera. We're looking to create a mutual fund. And so I'm going to differentiate that from a stock and a mutual fund. If we had one company, an individual stock, and it went bankrupt, we're out. But if we had a mutual fund that's made up of hundreds of good sized quality businesses, that's what we're shooting for. That at the end of the day, we're going to, it's going to yield more to the tax base. The job opportunities would be more diverse, and the opportunities would be grander for the community. We're looking to develop a mutual fund within Sampson County in terms of the types of companies we're looking for, in terms of the sizes of companies and things as such. So that's from a philosophy standpoint, we feel like that will be much larger. Also, as companies decide to leave, which is part of the business cycle. The cycle is companies start, companies will flourish, companies will decline, and companies will close, and that's part of this cycle. Unfortunately, we're at the end of that cycle with Brooks Brothers, at least here, and not just here in North Carolina, but it looks like they're looking to sell their entire company. So the other locations that they have in the Northeast will be affected as well.
So what you're hearing is their CEO or their president, Claudio DeVecchio, is maybe looking at to leverage and move some of the other Brooks Brothers?
They're looking to sell their company.
That's huge.
It is huge.
That's huge. We're talking
huge.
Millions, if not billions of dollars.
You're exactly right. That's very true.
That's breaking news. I just hadn't picked up on that. I knew that there was some question, especially on the United States side,
yes.
And a lot of the manufacturing. That's going to be a huge hit.
It will be.
But the key thing you just mentioned, I want you to kind of expand on a bit, is and go from Garland
yes.
to the larger picture as well. But is there a possibility, and the folks in your position see that this building, this facility, these people that were there, is there a look at trying to determine if there's a similar fit for somebody else that could walk in and say, well, we want to manufacture, I don't know, whatever, and everything is set up. We'd like to keep the same employees, except we're going to do something else. Does that make sense?
So we've already had one conversation recently specific to that.
Wow.
In that location for that area. But I will say, that said, I will say that conversation was from a potential business owner, mm-hmm. but it's at the very early stage. So by no means are we far enough along at all to say anything except there's a conversation that's being had at this point. On top of that, there are we have had some inquiries from some other sew and cut type of companies throughout North Carolina that have an interest in what's going on, also potentially in that space itself. Now, I do know just from the past, and from words from EDP&C regional manager Philip Shoemaker, that building, there's going to be a lot of upfit that we'll need for that building in order to really make it successful going forward. Also, based on the size of that facility, the size of the ceiling heights and different things as such, not any manufacturer can come in there. It would need to, based on the size and the ceiling heights, a cut and sew is ideal. There may be a few other industry types or whatever, but it would be very targeted. It would be a very targeted search for folks in that area itself.
Is that a market area that you could see potential growth in, given where we are now, as we kind of look maybe whatever post-COVID looks like? Is that a market area you could see that there's potential in? I
think where the potential really comes, the biggest part of that potential is the talent that's already there and the talent that's been supporting Brooks Brothers and have been going there to work. And that makes that location much more attractive. Albeit there's some folks who are coming from Bladen County and other areas to work, but having that influx and having that history of talent going there to work at that facility, that will make it, that's what makes it more attractive there at this point. But that also speaks to, and I'm going to use this very loosely, the decline of a lot of downtowns. Because if you go to Garland, if you go to Autryville, if you go to some other communities, you can see devastation or storefronts closed or boarded up or whatnot. There's a lot of vacancy going on.
19, 20, and 30 buildings that are strong buildings, but there's nothing in them.
That's exactly right. So I will say, and I'm going to brag real quickly on the Main Street program here within Clinton of how successful that's been, and the efforts that are continuing to work towards that. All that to say, having a business in and take over the Brooks Brothers site ultimately what's going to make that community flourish is not just that. It's going to be entrepreneurs coming back and opening up new shops as well, so that the location begins to have a new sense of the environment is one that's much more business friendly, conducive, and lively, if that makes sense. And so it's kind of, and that correlates with, when folks move to an area, when businesses come to an area, again, they're looking at the talent, they're doing all this, but then for some of those companies that are looking to bring people to the area, some of their existing workforce to a new area, they're also looking, is the quality of life. Is the quality of life going to meet our needs? Or is there proximity to and from other assets that will be enjoyable for our family? If my wife comes, is there things for her to do? So all of that plays hand in hand from the downtown, the look and feels, and the investment within that to support the other companies as well. And there's a direct relationship too from impact scenarios where larger companies such as Brooks Brothers will no doubt have increased the number of indirect jobs within that area. And by that leaving some of the other existing businesses, they may not need to keep on as much staff unless it gets refilled. And so you have some of those side effects that may be felt as well.
One of the things that a lot of folks probably understand a minimal about, but and I'll just touch on this because we're going to go to break in a minute, but is the idea of cash flow. When you pull that many people away, the cash flow in that area is traumatic. It's the next thing to a human being having a heart attack.
You are absolutely correct on that. It's the earnings impact that's felt within the local economy outside of the personal and real property taxes that's paid. The earnings that's felt and that's used in the local economy is significant, and the loss of that is doubly significant, and that will have an effect on some other smaller businesses in that area too.
We're going to take another break, and when we come back, I want to kind of, get into, are we for Sampson County, are we at the right place at the right time for economic growth? Ladies and gentlemen, that question and others as we come back, and we're talking with Stephen Barrington, economic developer.
To get the most out of your electronic devices, you need a strong internet connection and a protected home Wi-Fi network. You need high-speed internet from Star. Star has the fastest, most affordable high-speed internet service available for all your devices. We have no long-term contracts or high-pressure sales. Our service speaks for itself, and switching is hassle-free. We take care of everything with free installation from a local company. High-speed internet from Star. Internet at the speed of life.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're coming up on our last segment here at We Should Know. And again, the name of the show is We Should Know. There's things we need to know more about, more in-depth information. And what we do here, we try to get those people that do that's their specialty, their job, to talk to you, answer some questions, and let them tell us what's going on in the area. And one of those areas, of course, is of major interest to everyone now, is the area of economic development. And Stephen Barrington's got a broad background, comes to us from Wake County, Wake Forest, credentialed academically, knows something about politics because you've served as a town commissioner in Wake Forest, and another small town, but yet you get so much of a taste of the community. When you step up and put your face out there, you know a lot about things sometimes you didn't really want to know about, probably. You're like, wait a minute, okay, I didn't know, but now you know it. So is that what you see when you walk into a county for the first time like Sampson, and you look at it, as you said, analytically and objectivity, you go and, yeah, I see that, and I see this. I think the proximity word is something that I hear over and over as important for Sampson County. And I guess when I think of proximity, I think of a map, and I think of where the county is located and how quick it takes, or how long it takes me to get to Raleigh, or to Wilmington, or to New Bern, or to wherever. And we seems to be in a good proximity. What do you think?
That's an excellent question, but I will go back and just tell a quick funny on when I was first elected and sworn in, and so if there are any elected officials who will watch this, they may understand.
Town commissioners probably will,
Town
right?
commissioners, exactly right. When the night I was sworn in, I was told, tonight you're going to be sworn in, tomorrow you're going to be sworn at. And to be honest with you, there was a whole lot more truth to that than I realized.
That quote is stuck.
That's funny. But as it relates to proximity, you're exactly right. And actually, that's one of the reasons why that was one of the leading advantages and the reasons why I put my resume in for this opportunity in the first place, is because the proximity of Sampson County is significant, and that growth, it's not a matter, is it going to come to this area, it's a matter of when. And the time is right now to make sure that we have the infrastructure of economic development, that we're working on product development, that the infrastructure of the physical infrastructure, the water, sewer, the broadband, and huge kudos to Star Communications with that USDA announcement this past year.
We appreciate that.
That was huge.
$23.7 million is not a joke when it comes to rural
It's not a
areas.
joke at all.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But some of those sort of things. But that's extremely important. But so as it relates to proximity, not just to I-40 and to I-95, not just to going up to Raleigh and to the beaches, etc., but for the companies that locate here, and I already mentioned one that exports regularly globally, how close are we to ports? And so having ports, how closely are we to military bases? But also, we are a day's drive, an 8-hour, 10-hour day drive to the majority of the population in the U.S. And for folks who depend on Ezell Trucking or other companies as such to deliver their goods, that's a major variable. That proximity, we're thinking smaller regionally, and it's true. How close are we to RTP? Are we to the Raleigh-Durham International Airport? How close are we to some of the big announcements that are taking place in Johnson County, such as the Novo Nordisk expansions and different things like that? The Amazon that just took place is now in Garner. I tell you, things are creeping to the point that we're getting ourselves closer to the point of being able to land some of these larger opportunities, albeit that mutual fund concept is still something we're focused on. Not only that, there are a few other areas that some folks are interested in: professional sports, ACC sports, the proximity to that within North Carolina, not just to the Raleigh-Durham, but also to the Charlotte area. We have proximity there, and these are for companies who are looking from outside the state, and often how close are we to a lot of these sort of assets. And so not just local assets, regional assets, but some of the statewide assets that we have here too are extremely important. So proximity is a major key and a major selling point for us in terms of reaching out to companies and reaching out to target industries and or business resource partners who are likewise going out and marketing on our behalf, such as the North Carolina Southeast Regional Partnership, Economic Development Partnership, and EDPNC for that matter. And EDPNC is the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And so proximity is huge. I will tell you a few of the things going forward that we're going to be putting a lot more of our efforts towards. And we've had conversations with Steve Yost. Steve Yost leads the North Carolina Southeast Regional Economic Development Partnership. And over the last 5 years, 14 to 19, there were 519 projects that came to the Southeast. 66% of those were manufacturing and distribution logistics. Most of those, we did not have the products to be even to submit for those opportunities. And so our number one of the things we're doing right now, and our team is made up of Ray Jordan, who is, he not only leads the Agra Expo Center, he also is our Assistant Economic Development Director, as well as Janice Wood, who is our Administrative Support Specialist. And so as a team, and we don't think of ourselves isolated as a team, we absolutely work with partners, business resource partners, local, regional, state, to be able to do anything and everything we do. We do almost zero in isolation. And that's also important for us. But one of the top, speaking to Steve, one of the top things we can do is our product development efforts. We simply do not have enough product to be able to really showcase or really compete for projects that are coming to the area. And so that's a major focus area. We have the Sampson Southeast Business Center with the Schindlers and the DuBose companies and things as such. We actually are looking at, and we've been working with a company from out of state, and we had worked with them through the end of January and continued on since then on our own. But we are looking at multiple industrial parks, business industrial parks throughout the county, not just in Clinton, but throughout the county. And we're having conversations with different property owners, buildings, as well as a lot of landowners as well. And so we are looking to really expand and take advantage of the proximity and take advantage of Sampson County in our location as such. On top of that, we have instituted and started existing business visits, a business visitation program. I think the foundation of any strong economic development program is, how are we doing with the existing companies? The companies that are here, are we helping them grow? Are we helping them to expand? Are we able to help them stay in business? And so that's where a major effort will be. Storytelling. How are we telling our stories? And what kind of stories are we telling? And all of these sort of areas, they do make up of a lot of what we are going to be focused on going forward. As it relates to small business, we are kind of revamping a small business revolving loan program where we will be providing small businesses with loans to be able to upgrade and strengthen their own companies themselves. We also are initiating a building and site online listing service through ours. We have that, and we're looking with owners, business property owners, and buildings and land to be able to list their properties as well, and to work with realtors to be able to list their properties. We want success. We want everyone to be part of this great effort. Those are some of the things we're doing coming up.
One of the things I kind of picked up on a couple of points you made. It appears that we certainly are in a situation that folks should by now realize that this is an all-in game. Everybody is part of what you're trying to accomplish and what the commission board is trying to accomplish. And if anybody has ideas or they have a contact, they can certainly reach you and say,
yes,
look, I've thought about this or I've looked at this. Is that practical for folks? And I don't want to put you out there on a limb, but is that practical for folks to say, I'm going to call Stephen and give him this information?
No, we absolutely welcome and encourage that sort of information sharing. Our efforts at the end of the day are, how do we help entrepreneurs start a business, existing business grow a business, and folks who want to relocate to the county come to the county and have this. And so part of what we do, and we know this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. Economic development marathon is a team sport. But how can we help set the environment that is conducive and business friendly for folks to be able to be successful in all of those areas? You're right, and we welcome that information.
I'll give you about 20 seconds here to wrap up. We've just kind of come into a quick close. So.
No, I really appreciate that a lot. First and foremost, thank you for allowing me to come here and just share with you some of the things that we are doing and my input on some things that are taking place. I do want to brag real quickly on the County Board of Commissioners, and the reason why is They have put their money where their mouth is, of creating that revolving loan fund. The revolving loan fund is going to be absolutely significant towards our product development, which is the most important thing we can do.
Thank you for being with us today. And a lot of things we might need to get you back, because I know I'm going to get some questions on this show.
Sure.
So just stay tuned for more on that. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you each and every week on We Should Know on Tuesday at 2:30. We invite you back to tune in. We also invite your input. We should know edu@gmail.com.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.